upset some people, but the NEA, National Education Association. I get really tired of all the mandates that come down from the federal government trying to tell us how to teach our kids. And I would love to see it obliterated. I mean, the debacle in Wisconsin, among others. What is your feeling about the National Education Association?
Well, they've never been great supporters of me in my election. You know, I've actually said that public employee unions really, and this is contrary to what happened in Ohio, but I think the idea of public employee unions, they didn't exist until the 1960s. It was John Kennedy signed an executive order to allow public employees unions to exist. There isn't any, in my opinion, there's no real rationale for public employee unions to exist because they're negotiating an unfair and unbalanced negotiation. Because, you know, the union certainly has, just like a private sector union, skin in the game. You know, it's their money, it's their benefits that they're fighting for. But the folks on the other side, it's not their money, it's not their business. You know, they're not losing. They don't lose a penny if they give away the store to the public employee union. They pass it on to you, and they may not be up for re-election or want to run for re-election or care if they win re-election. Because they may be folks that were put on that board or put on in that commission or put on that as a mayor by the people who they're going to be negotiating with because they funded their campaigns. So it creates this very insidious loop that drives up the cost of pensions and health care and the cost of public employees. So I have a fundamental problem with the whole public employee union movement, period. But on the education side, look, we need to just dramatically transform the education system in this country. It is an abject failure, and you can't, contrary to maybe my previous comments, you can't lay it on the teacher's lap. Teachers are only a part of that process. It is the way the system is structured. It is not structured to do what Dodici does. If you came in here and you had the menu here at Dodici and there was one thing on the menu, and let's say the folks here, had you had an assessment that you could come to Dodici once, once a month. You got assessed as part of your taxes to come here once a month, but they only offered you one thing, right? Would you be a happy customer? Well, some people would because they might like that one thing. Other people wouldn't. I mean, and usually the one thing would probably be, pasta with red sauce. I mean, something that's pretty bland, right? Something that most people like, but it wouldn't be something that would be customized to you. How many customers would want to come here? Nobody. But that's the education system. The education system is built around educating children, not your child. It's not, every business in America, the same slogan comes forward. The customer comes first, right? You're a customer-driven business. Education is an institution-driven business. It's about educating children writ large instead of having a system that is designed to have a customized education for each child in America based on their needs. Oh, how could we do that? How can we not do that? We're spending hundreds of billions of dollars. How can we not have a system that values every child and gives them the best opportunities for success? It's because we have an education system that doesn't know who the customer of the education system is. Who is the customer of the education system? The parents. That's right. Why? Well, first they pay for it. So if the parents pay for it, they're the customers. Usually the customer is the person who pays for it. But more importantly, the customer of the education system is the person who is responsible for the education of the children. Is your school responsible for the education of your children? No, you are. Every parent is responsible for the education of their children. You start educating your children from the moment they're born. You teach them their ABCs, you teach them their numbers, you teach them right from wrong, you teach them please and thank you. And at some point in time, we have convinced the parents in America that that stops. And it's now somebody else's job. It's not. It's still your job. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from teachers is parents stop. And they just sort of say, okay, here, you can't get into the teachers' conferences, you can't get them to be involved in the education of their children, because they're busy often doing other things. If you're going to have children in America, you need to be the responsible parent and do what is necessary to make sure that they are raised. How many parents only care when it comes to the education of their children? How many parents only care about their academic achievement? Don't care about anything else when it comes to raising your children. How many care only about academic achievement? So I figured. So far it's unanimous. I've never had someone raise their hand and say, all I care is about academic achievement. Then why do you send your children to a school in the public schools and spend over half of their waking days in an institution that only cares about them? It doesn't care about building character, promoting virtue, teaching the morality. It doesn't talk about spirituality and that aspect of their life. In fact, it specifically can't talk about those things. And if you're a child and you go into a setting and all of those things which are taught at home are not taught here, then what do you think? Well, maybe they aren't important. Maybe mom's just sort of, and mom and dad are sort of out to lunch on this stuff because we're not hearing and teaching these things, and this is what we're supposed to learn. We need to dramatically change the education system in this country. We need to get rid of the federal role in education. One of the biggest mistakes I made when I was in the United States Senate was voting for an increased federal role in education with this No Child Left Behind and the testing. They had convinced me that we needed to test to see how we were doing. And I sort of bought into that, and the more I thought about it, Karen and I have 7 children. Our oldest was here, but Hope's here. Maybe she went next door for coffee. Our oldest, Elizabeth, is here. We have 7. We homeschool up until 8th grade, and then we've sent our kids to different schools. Now, we're blessed that we have the ability to do that. But we understood that our children learn differently, and one would do better in one school, and one would do better. We wanted in same-sex education, and one we were happy they were in an educational environment where they're both boys and girls. But it was all designed on what we knew, because we know and love our children. We know what's best for them, and we know what we wanted to have them be. We're raising, Karen always say, we're not raising children. We're raising adults. Right? I don't want my kids to be kids when they're 18. I want them to be adults. That's what I'm raising. And so we have that vision, and we've lost that in America. One thing the president can do, yes, we can get rid of the federal role in education, primary and secondary education. But we have to have a national discussion about the kind of education system we have. And if we don't energize that national discussion and demand what's best for your child, and they'll be saying, oh, well, parents don't know what's best for their child. Oh, really? I'll never forget during the healthcare battle back in the mid-90s when Hillary Clinton was trying to pass national health care. There was a Meet the Press program that United States Senator Phil Gramm, I don't know if you remember Phil Gramm, he was a senator from Texas. And he was on with the intellectual who designed Hillary Care, a guy named Ira Magaziner. And so they were on, and they were back and forth fighting about this and that. And Phil was talking about government run this, and he was saying, no, I care about this, and we care about this. Anyway, at some point, the guy rose up and says, I care about your children as much as you do. And so Phil Gramm looked over and said, you care about my children as much as I do? He said, yes, I do. He said, what are their names? That's the problem. They don't know the names of your kids. The idea that they know better for your children than what you do. Are there parents who don't do a good job of parenting and don't know what's best for their children? Sure, but you don't design a system around those who are irresponsible. You design it around those who are, and that's the vast majority. And the more you create that expectation in society that parents have to play that role, the more parents will do it. So we've got big plans on education. But let me be very clear. I'm not going to drive that from the federal level through legislation. I'm going to drive it through persuasion, through having a national debate and rallying parents across this country and grandparents who care about the future of their children to demand changes within the education system.
Senator, one more question.
Just, can I make one more comment? I just want to know, will you be like Obama and not...
No.
And not rest or sleep until all these problems are taken care of?
To be like Obama, in other words, I get to take vacations to Hawaii and play golf 3 times a week.
You know,
And,
basketball.
yeah, play basketball.
Just don't rest.
Shoshana Walsh is here from ABC, and she's actually doing an interview on me saying that we're working harder than pretty much everybody else out here on the campaign trail. I mean, we're getting out early in the morning doing events, you know, Oh Dark 100 and going till late at night, and that's just what we're doing. So I think my kids would tell you, and is Elizabeth back yet? She's still not back. Huh? I think my kids would tell you that, you know, I'm a pretty passionate guy and I work pretty hard. Shoshana tells me that people think that I'm angry. I'm not angry. I just care a lot, and because I believe a lot's at stake. And so if I do come across angry, I apologize. I'm just passionate. Take one more question if there is one. Right over here.
I'll offer. Maybe this one's too big for the short time that you have left, but it's just.
I take small questions.